Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Belly to Belly. And we're here today with a great friend, Bob Fucci from Growth Acceleration. Welcome, Bob.
Bill, thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, it's great to see you. So today, obviously, we're talking about U.S. expansion and helping companies particularly drive revenue, acquire customers, and grow. Before we hop into kind of our topic, do you mind just explaining a little bit about what Growth Acceleration does so that we have context?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we are a sales and business development company, kind of first and foremost. I started the company in 2014. I saw this market need for companies that were really producing very interesting, compelling technology-based solutions, and that were generally overseas and wanted to drive growth. And so if you're in Finland or Sweden, Denmark, we've got clients in Denmark, we've got clients in the UK and Ireland. If you're in those countries, you have a decision to make after you've built a kind of a book of business. And one of the decisions may include US expansion. So how do you do that? How do you do it in a cost-effective way? And how do you do it kind of as you invest this money to drive this expansion? How do you do it in a way that really delivers results? So that's what we try to do. We try to be the very best representative for both the solution and the brand. And we try to drive funded demand, and we could talk about that a little bit more. We try to drive funded demand by fixing, issues and challenges that we fixed perhaps back in the home country of our clients. So we could talk about that more.
Great. And I just so it's clear too, I believe you're totally focused kind of in the B2B space. Yeah, so enterprise type sales.
Yeah, we took our first B to B to C client, a company out of Canada this year, but primarily, that's right. We focus in on B2B clients.
Cool.
That's where our expertise is based.
Fantastic. So, well, let's hop into our topic. So, you've been doing this quite a while. You've had some experience besides the consulting side is the actual being, doing this, sort of for companies you're working for as well. So when you think about the companies that you see coming from Europe to the US, what, from a revenue generation standpoint, where are the big fail points? Where are they challenged?
They're almost always challenged, Bill, initially on this, how do I say it? So they see a tremendous amount of opportunity at the top of the funnel that just never converts. They do a lot of remote-based selling, a lot of demo-based selling. And people, I tell this to people all the time, people in the sales process are incredibly polite. Costs somebody nothing to be very polite and encouraging about your solution, but it doesn't mean that you're necessarily driving to funded demand. And that's what we talk about all the time. That's a term that we use all the time. We're very focused on finding funded demand. So they come to us and they say, look, we have a very interesting set of solutions. Most often they have a platform, which companies here in the States like to buy, right? Reuse, repurpose, protect your investment. But we focus in on, the buyers, the influencers, the steps to close, all those things that are just kind of blocking and tackling in the sales space.
Gotcha. And so as you're saying this, I'm thinking about actually also like hiring people. It all starts with, what's the quality of the candidate? And I think about, what you just said, it starts with the top of the funnel being, driving up the quality of the prospect. So can you talk us through how do you do that? How do you get better quality prospects?
Well, I think one of the ways that you get better quality, there's this model that we've talked about for years in this space called this challenger model, right? Mm-hmm. So I give something to a client or a prospect, I get something in return, and that kind of is designed to build an equal relationship.
Sort of the opting in.
Correct. But it's very hard to do that remotely, isn't it? It's very hard to ask somebody to do something when you haven't either built trust or built some kind of a relationship. They can't put a face and a name together. They don't see you sitting there and working through the issues. So we always, one of the things that we always focus on in the early stages is we try as best as we can to articulate that we've solved similar problems for clients that do similar work. And so there's not a whole lot of difference in an analytics model for a bank in Finland than there is for an analytics model for a bank in New Jersey or New York. And so then it's the question of, will they give us time to prove there's value there? And I think we're very good. There's a lot of things we can always improve on. We are very good at honing in on value.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we have that conversation, we get a lot of people nodding their heads that they're willing to kind of continue the discussion and take the next step. And I think what we're good at is making sure that as we're going through those steps, we're very clear-eyed, and we're very honest about their ability to invest in the solution, timing, people, roles, all of those things that we've always sold for a long time into complex organizations. So being a hard grader in this space is very, very important. Very important. It's important for us as a partner for our client. It's very important for the client too. So we have, we have that as one of our pillars. Very clear-eyed, always leading the prospect through the buying process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that ability to be candid, it sounds like, is really important. So that the client has sort of a transparent view of what the customer really thinks, because I think often there tends to be an assumption of interest rather than proven, as you said, sort of proven interest.
I think that's right. We have a client today in the fleet and transportation space. It's a single digit margin business. They're not going to invest in back end systems to make their SAP environment work better, but they will invest in things that help them to optimize assets and utilize them better. And so we're very clear about, this is where the win is for you and for us. We've driven tens of millions of dollars in that industry by simple steps that allow them to invest, find areas where they're driving efficiency, making money, driving margin, improving margin, and then expanding from there. We've had clients in the clinical trial space, very margin-rich business, very platform-driven. Who's going to capture the best, most accurate patient information, and then be able to report on that and analyze it? So very, very different businesses, and we try to respond to those needs accordingly.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, I think what I'm hearing is, besides the sort of building processes that improve the quality of new prospects entering the funnel, sort of suspect to prospect, besides that, another sort of pillar is the structure of the sales process, and even thinking about the structure of the first and second meeting, where you're kind of discovery and then sort of the needs assessment, and then potentially either driving down through the organization to other buying influences or proposal and so on. But it sounds like you add quite a bit of structure to that. I guess my tendency is and I think U.S. companies also suffer from this, but we see a lot of international companies coming in where there tends to be very much a product sale. So the first meeting is, sort of kind of throwing up on the customer, giving them all the features of whatever the solution is, without any understanding of what the customer's challenges are. It's almost like a doctor going in and saying, well, I think you have pneumonia, without actually doing any tests to verify that.
We do a lot of work in discovery, and I talk to people all the time about being directionally right in our assessment and our views of ways that we can help. It's really important to do that, because we do demos as part of the process. We like to do kind of day in the life demos. We've done the discovery. We understand what the business value and the business case is. And then we focus in on, this is how you will use this solution every day and how it brings you benefit every day. But in terms of discovery, it takes some time and effort to get people to focus in on giving you that time. but we've thankfully been skilled enough to deliver value back,
Right.
and have them leave with something that they believe is helpful to them. And it makes the demo process more effective.
That's fantastic. So maybe kind of bringing this to a fine point too is, when you think back in the companies that you've worked with, and you think about the founder, because those are the folks listening to this podcast are people that are either already coming to the U.S. or considering coming. When you think about the founder, what are you think about the ones that have been successful? What are the common attributes that they have that maybe the ones that are less successful are missing?
I think that there's a few, and I've worked with some really great founders. I think that they are very skilled listeners, and so they don't rush to talk about the product and all of its features and benefits. They're very skilled listeners. And I had a customer say this about one of the founders, that and they come over all the time. They'll spend a week with me. We'll make a lot of calls and meetings, and they're fantastic. And I had a customer say of one of the founders, when I express a problem or a challenge to him, he comes back shortly after that, and he tells me how the product will fix that challenge. And then he'll explain to me a challenge that I hadn't even thought of, and how the product will scale and grow to do that. And so they're terrific listeners. They're really, really, this sounds kind of weird to say this, but they're really good people. They have a lot of empathy. They have a lot of conviction in their business, obviously, but they're willing to kind of go further to help the client get there. They're very creative, and I like to think of myself as doing this too, but very creative at the end of the transaction and giving optionality, providing optionality, how they can bring this in, how they can license it, pay for it, maybe extended, terms that give the client more value. We do a lot of pilots, and the best clients that have worked through the pilot to the subscription or to the longer term deal, have been generous in terms of credits back and views towards a longer relationship. Fantastic. And I'll tell you another thing that they're not afraid to admit, and it's really met with great enthusiasm. They're not afraid to admit that they're still learning about the U.S. market, and that they need trusted voices and advisors. And so when they have those conversations with people, it just builds just a level of just affection, really. It's not just trust, it's more than that. It's affection, because now they're joined together. Right.
The power of empathy is incredible. I think it's irreplaceable. But one of the things that I think about is, and it's interesting because you have to have ego in order to cross an ocean. There's no question. You've got to have confidence. You've got to have, some real rigid gumption. But on the other hand, the success comes from balancing that ego with the empathy, empathy to really understand, and that only gets reflected back by what you offer back if it matches. Yeah, so that's great. This has been really good, Bob, and we are kind of on time. So thank you so much for taking the time today. With this, we're going to clearly have to come back and have another conversation. So this has been fantastic, and really appreciate the great thoughts that you shared today.
Oh, I'm grateful to be with you. Thank you, Bill.
And what we'll do is we'll put your contact info in the description as well. But okay, if people reach out?
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much again.
I'm grateful that you invited me. I hope to come back soon.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers.